All right, we will call to order this meeting of the Park City Board of Education today, Tuesday, August 15th at 4:01 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We will start with the consent agenda. I'll entertain the motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the regular session minutes of June 20th, closed session of June 20th, account payable registers of June 12th, 20th, 21st, 23rd, 24th, 30th, July 3rd, 5th, July 18th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 31st, August 1st, 2nd, and 7th, early learning plan, ALS plan, district contracts, travel requests, personnel information, and June and July revenues and expenditures.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated. Second.
Okay, do we have any discussion on any of the 50 items on this consent agenda?
Not.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda as read, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. We will move on to employee reports.
Good evening. Welcome back to a new school year. Here we go. I am Mary Morgan, for those of you that don't know me, the co-president for the Park City Education Association. I'm also the music specialist this year at Trailside. And this is Shannon Hayes, who is the co-president of PCA with me. He's one of the counselors here at the high school as well. So thank you, Shannon. We are excited for the upcoming school year. I want to express our sincere gratitude for the many ways you continue to support not only teachers, but all Park City School District employees. The compensation packages supported by the Truth and Taxation hearing coming up tonight is one of those ways that you as a board have shown that you support all employees. The impact that this cost of living increase will have on the lives of the Park City School District employees comes at a time when it is needed the most. Instead of employees working 2-3 jobs, they can now just work 1 or 2. Instead of spending time away from their families 7 days a week, they can now go to their child's soccer game on a Saturday. Instead of commuting up to an hour or more, because the median listing home price in Park City is $2.6 million, and the average rent for a 1-bedroom apartment is over $2,000 a month, they can maybe live just a little closer. So we thank you so much for your support. This summer has been a time for reflection, trainings, and hopefully spending some time with families. As most of you know, we lost a very dear member of our community. Cozy Huggins passed away on August 5th, just a few weeks ago. She is the daughter of Laura and Ron Huggins and the twin sister of Holly Huggins, all of whom are employees here in the Park City School District and active members in PCA and PCCEA. Cozy's older sister, Danielle, was also a Park City High School graduate. All 3 Huggins siblings attended Parley's Park Elementary, Edgar Hill Middle School, Treasure Mountain, and the high school. Cozy was a strong advocate, especially for the LGBTQ+ community. And during her senior year in high school in 2014, she nominated the Gay Straight Alliance of Park City High School for the National GLSEN GSA Award and won. Cozy was able to accept the award in New York City and represent this small community in a very big way. Our hearts go out to the Huggins family during this very difficult time, and PCA wants to personally thank Cozy Huggins for the impact she made in this world and in this community. Thank you again for your support, for continuing conversations with PCA, and for giving us a voice. We look forward to working together this coming year and hope everyone has a great start to the new school. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. All right, Mr. Canner.
Good afternoon. This is the board operations update for 15th of August, 2023. Buildings and grounds, the ops team is fully staffed and facilities are ready for the new school year. We're proud to report. School team members are busy getting schools ready for students next week. District team members are busy performing preventative maintenance on HVAC and other equipment, while asphalt work, seal coating, striping, curb painting are being completed. They've been delayed a little by summer rains, so we're putting finishing touches on that now. You may have noticed that Comstock Drive was repaved and restriped. We pulled out the concrete barriers and fences there. I like the look. We hope that it's still safe, and if there's any concerns, we can put the concrete barriers back in. The roof repairs at Carly's are complete, that were necessary from heavy snow damage last winter. And some of the capital projects, some examples here, we got a new chiller installed at the high school, a new LED lighting at Trailside, a new concrete courtyard at Trailside, and concrete work across the district that was necessary because of the heavy snow and damage from the plows. Transportation, all preventative maintenance and inspections on the buses are complete and our fleet is ready for service. While still short on drivers, we are seeing some interest in the and have a couple candidates in the interview and hiring pool, along with several applicants for the trainer position that opened up. Two of those candidates are internal, so we're hoping to see a little bit of relief for driver numbers here. We've had some concerns from parents referencing Jeremy Ranch, Deer Valley, Park City Heights transportation. I can assure you that all the riders who are eligible are being supported in accordance with state law. We're going to max out our space available offering as soon as we verify the number of eligible students who are eligible but aren't riding, so we can release their seats to other students. And we're actively looking at some more elegant solutions. Right now, we're kind of out of options, so we just don't have the drivers. If we get the drivers and get healthy, we may, as a school community, choose to either self-fund those additional routes out of pocket here at the district, or we may set up some kind of charge structure where parents who aren't eligible, who want transportation, can pay on a monthly basis. So we're actively looking at that. I just want to let the board know that adding new routes about $24,000, just one segment of a route for one school, which would include obviously driver, fuel cost, maintenance, and the vehicle itself. So not that much for the board to swallow if we have to, but it's just we have to get the driver numbers helping first, and so we're actively engaged in that. Child nutrition services, John was just ecstatic to report that for the first time in his tenure here, his kitchens are fully staffed. He has a new internal Phil as the manager at Eckerd Hill. 3 additional hires that were recommended by the internal staff, and he reports that the morale is high with the new wage structure. Eckerd Hill Middle School construction is going to impact food delivery for our children for the first about 6 weeks of school. We're going to have cold meals prepared off site and delivered there to Eckerd, and hopefully it won't last more than the middle of October. The Parley's Kitchen roof project was also treated as an opportunity to make modifications for better back of the house flow for kitchen operations. Normal meal ops will be at the high school, Treasure, Jeremy, and Trailside. They're not impacted by construction. John successfully completed the summer feeding program at Treasure Mountain Junior High with 3,646 meals served in 22 days of service. And they've also got all the non-essential equipment and unrepairable equipment moved out and out for surplus sale. Human resources, as you're aware, is very busy this time of year, interviewing and hiring staff, trying to field an effective team for a new school year. Chev is happy to report he has over 70 new hires that we've brought in. HR has seen a significant increase in positions as applicants respond to the new wage structure. Good news there. Nearly all the posted positions have multiple applicants, many to be formally hired tonight by board action. The EMS job study is wrapping up, and we'll have some actionable results by the end of September. The district also hired a Title IX director of compliance that started last month, and Michael's already providing training to principals and deans, a much needed position. HR is going through a little bit of an innovation initiative. They're trying to streamline and improve their systems and processes, moving paperless. In the first planning session, that initiative on the first assessment. And lastly, for human resources, we'll greatly miss our HR director, Dr. Chev Sorensen, as he moves on to his other professional pursuits. His last day in the first September. Security, the AI Instant Alert System, AJIX, is installed, and staff will receive training this coming Thursday at Convocation, and also to the learning management system Canvas. The Zero Eyes system, that is the AI gun detection system that enables our cameras to actively look for weapons. We hope to get it in by the end of the summer, but the state procurement process has slowed us down with HB 61 funding. And we're hoping to get that in probably the middle of September, maybe even October. The HB 61 grant for school security is complete. We're going to get some signatures from Randy and Dr. Jill on it. And we hope that they fund many security projects. We asked for $1.4 million of funding that can be extended over 2 years. So like everything from the AGIC system to serialize to bulletproof glass, alarm systems, coordination with our construction, and all that. That's all I have for you tonight for operations. Any questions?
Yeah, I do, especially about the Jeremy groups. So did something change with, you said all eligible students, because we had parents that had never had to apply for space available in the past, and now apparently they do. So what happened?
Well, what happened was about 5 years ago, the district received funding to construct the pathway that goes from Saddleback down towards the school. I'm sorry, Homestead down to school, down to Bluebird Lane, goes along the creek there. You may have been.
Yes, I'm remembering.
And then so.
So is that the school district owns that?
Yeah, and it's the state mandates that we use that route as part of the shortest route to school calculation. The other thing that's happened in the last several years is that the roundabouts went from very small roundabouts to very big roundabouts, right? So that also did some distance changes. So while we've enforced that rule this year, and that's the reason you're seeing the change. And what's forcing us to enforce that rule is a lack of drivers. Is that even if we wanted to support the people, we just don't have the drivers to support more than we are obligated to do by the state. We're trying to actively fix that, and we're going to get as many people on a space day as quickly as we possibly can. Right? You know, I've heard several complaints from parents, and I live up there. I'm empathetic, right? I wouldn't want my kid walking from the top of Jeremy down to the school, even if it is within a mile and a half. The problem is that if you have a hazard along the route, the state expects the school district to work with the land management agency who owns that property to repair it. The problem that we have here is a lot of snow, dark, and altitude, right? We've got a lot of altitude change there, and there's no way to fix that, right? And so where I came from in Illinois, if we had a route like that, we could declare the route as a hazardous route. The state would fund it. Here they have a higher standard, and we're being forced to comply with that. Like I said, if we do get the drivers, we have the bus. I think one of the places that the board should consider, and I'd like to bring a proposal to the board, saying even if we have a couple options, we can put a new route in place if we get the driver, and the board could choose to fund it, or we could create that route with the driver on it, and we can charge the constituents for that service if not eligible. I suspect that we're going to get the majority of the students on with the space available. The problem is that we have a lot of riders who are eligible who don't ride, and we have no way of determining if they're going to come or not on the bus on a regular basis. They may come once a week on the bus because they stand there to see because they're not a week riders. Those numbers kind of stabilize over time, and we get a pretty good feel for how many seats. And so that process usually takes about 2 weeks to a month before we get it anything dialed in. But then we start seeing numbers bumping back up in the wintertime as kids who weren't riding now are all of a sudden riding. So they don't want to drive down to school. So it's more of an art than a science. So we try to be very aggressive in managing that. We hear the constituents' concerns. We definitely are actively pursuing a solution for it. We'll open up as many space A as we possibly can. But it is what it is.
Now, the other factor, remember, Mike, was the state's transportation audit was this spring.
That's
So
right.
the auditors actually came out and they did the measurements. So this is not something that Rich goes out and does himself. This is something that the state comes out and they microscope it. And they will not reimburse for the route if we're not following regulations.
Because it's within a mile and a half.
So in order to-
It's 2 miles for grades 7 and above. It's 1.5 below 6.
And remember, Jeremy's not the only place that has steep elevation. We also have Summit Park where the kids have to kind of come down to pick up their route in the winter months. So we do see lots of neighborhoods that have different kinds of impacts, but it was this spring's audit, which we don't have back yet. But when the auditors were there, they made a point to let Rich know that we better put something out to the families because this is the way the kids should be
Yeah, the board, you can choose to provide.
We put a letter out in the first.
Okay, so those who are writing with surprise that they heard the communication like on Facebook or something, just didn't maybe receive the letter.
Well, I think we stumbled a little bit there.
Okay.
We said the notes home backpacks to the kids,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of the parents,
Paper.
the kids either, the parents either didn't get them, didn't look in the backpacks, or they weren't, the kids didn't go to school that last week. Rich intended to post it to the website also,
Okay.
but when he went to post it, he was asked to put a job ticket in to post it to the website.
Mm,
Well, when he got that little bit of resistance, he forgot about posting to sending a job ticket and get it posted. We wanted to do that. So that's again our case. We've done that better. It's posted right now. I'm responding actively to parental, questions, trying to take a little heat off of Rich. But, as a board, you can choose to provide free transportation for the entire district. And that's,
Yeah.
as a board, that's a taxpayer, decision, right? But the boundaries that are put in by the state are there to put some reasonable cap on your expenses associated with it and reduce the size of our fleet to a manageable level for taxpayers. And that's what we're applying with and with that audit.
Are you talking about one bus, one driver? What's? how many
Yeah,
are we
it's-
talking?
It's
Yeah,
about
see-
36.
But it's one driver, I'm sure?
No, we, right now, for the first day of school, we'll be having all of our mechanics driving, all of our office staff driving. We are critically, and so, it is looking up, but we lost our driver trainer, Annie last spring. We have had active applicants for that position, which were interviewed, last 2 days. We thought we had 5 driver applicants, one of which was interviewed today. But the other 4 either hadn't returned our calls when we tried to call them or said that they had something else going on. So if any of you want to apply for bus driver position.
You want to drive the bus?
You can't be employed by. Otherwise,
Yeah.
This is where you direct me to get my CDL.
Right.
Okay, so just to be clear, to Ann's question though. Driver short or not, the issue related to the route change.
Right.
What fixes that? The families that are impacted by that are having, which sounds like that was triggered by an audit
Yeah, so
and by a state mandated. Just to be clear on that, we have the bus shortage, that's an ongoing issue. And now we have this other added challenge.
yeah, we don't have a bus shortage, we got a bus driver.
Driver shortage, yeah.
So there's, if, feeling the constituents' pain there are a couple of levers that we can potentially pull to fix this.
Okay.
Once we get the driver, that's the
Okay.
question.
The
So,
first thing, drivers.
correct. So, one thing is we can dispatch another route in there, provided we have the body to do it. Pick up those kids that are.
So that would be a require body and another bus? Which
No,
we
we
have
have
the
the bus.
Just, I know, we have to pay we would have, yeah, I
Well,
understand that, but what I'm saying is the added route, that those streets that are no longer, are they gonna be added to a current route? If we get the bus driver, or would it be a totally separate bus that goes out on a route?
We have to look at that, but I'm pretty confident it would be a completely separate route.
A completely separate route, okay,
We don't have the
so that
capacity.
is using another bus,
Right.
okay, so that adds the cost of the
And
gas,
as
all of
I
that.
said, we reached back to the state, get some average costs for distribution,
Okay.
it was about $25,000. And then, that begs the question of who pays for it, right? So now
Right.
you're providing a service that isn't required to constituents. Is the board willing to eat that expense as an additional service? Or should the board say, hey, we're not gonna pay for stuff to the other constituents, we're gonna charge per month or whatever for that service.
And if we do it for Jeremy, we'll have to do it for all.
Well, and that's the other thing, it opens up a can of worms, right? Because we have Park City Heights that's similarly impacted, and we have Deer Valley route.
So is the Deer Valley route, because there's a short, there's only like 6, did I hear that correctly? That it's
Yeah.
about a number, you have to have a minimum of how many?
We have,
10, and there's like
you have,
6 that want this one, right?
there's no compensation for a route with less than 5 children.
Okay,
5 to 10 children, you get half compensation from the
Okay.
state. It's not until you're over 10 that you get full compensation. So the routes at Deer Valley are impacted for a couple of reasons. One is that we could no longer fudge the numbers to get them over those lines, either substandard, right? They were in the 3 to 4 range in the past with the audit. Sometimes we can look the other way and say, sometimes we have 5 people on this route and that's fine. But now it's gotten to a point that that's not a good pathway for us, but the bigger thing is that if we continue that route into Deer Valley, and I was just trying to explain this in an email to one of our parents that wrote. It adds 20 minutes to that route by the time they get up there and come down. And so those buses don't only service one school, they service 3 schools, right? What happens when we look at our busing operations, you get the high school and Treasure go first, and then get the elementaries, and then they go to Ecker, right? So those buses are on the heels of each other. And so if you're late, that 20 minutes, that compounds into the system. And so now the kids at Ecker are ultimately 20 minutes late to school. And so without additional drivers to support that, which would be out of our pocket. Again, we're forced to that position. We got to consolidate the route structure at Sweet Alley, the bus stop at Sweet Alley, where the Deer Valley folks can come down. I clearly recognize that's not a very elegant solution, right? But desperate times require desperate actions, and it's the best foot that we can provide right now with our staffing position.
And we already have neighborhoods where parents come to the
Right.
pick up stuff.
Yeah, that we do that in Pioneer, we do that. We do it
Yeah.
in Sac Park.
Yeah, I mean, we're just.
Right. It is an inconvenience. There's no doubt. No,
But
I
it's-
get it.
Our special solution is better than no solution.
So how is the hiring situation? Have we seen any improvement with pay increases?
Well, I can, as I mentioned, across the board, we've seen we've seen more applicants for position. All of our key positions are getting quality candidates. We're completely, as I mentioned, completely staffed in food service now, which is the first time in 5 years. We're completely staffed in our maintenance department. So we're just going to do one more person who we have identified. But the buses, we thought we had 5 applicants for the bus trainer position, and we thought we had 5 applicants in the pool for bus drivers. I was like, oh, was he late? But then as we started calling those folks back, no one's returning their calls. So we got one that we're pretty confident we're going to move forward. But we're still waiting to hear back from the others if there's still interest. One responded that said that he was no longer interested in moving on. But we're actively pursuing.
How many do you need?
Rich would be comfortable probably with 4. He would feel like he could be in a good place for that.
That means he wouldn't have to drive.
Right.
Because I met them all at summer school. Every single person was on summer school rep.
Well, and here's the other thing that happens, right? When we don't have a trainer in the place and Rich is out driving, all those other things that Rich should be doing,
Right.
all those in-services for people are no longer.
Tandem is driving.
Right,
I just spoke to her a million times on the phone. I found it. I'm like, oh my gosh, why don't I hear her voice?
Yeah.
All those people are driving.
And we don't know who's going to pick up the phone, parents call concerns.
Right.
We don't have any slack for mechanics to go out to a bus that's soccer, got an accident. So those things are compounding. Like I said, we're at a critical manning position there. But that's not unlike other school districts throughout the country. So the question is, how do we, if we're presented with this as our way of life, how do we solve this, right? And then we can't, wage structure was huge. I mean, that's bringing new people to the door. I think it will continue to do so. We might be able to partner with the county in High Valley Transit or with the micro service within the city to provide limited service for those onesie, twosie kind of kids who are living further off.
They aren't supposed to do that.
Right.
There were very clear rules about that in Utah as well, because we did look into that. I think maybe your first year, maybe my second year, trying to see if we could use the public transportation routes, because if you're in a big city, if you're in Chicago or Boston, the kids ride the public system, that's what they do, but they don't do that in Utah. That's not the design, that's not what the state wants happening, especially, because that's a whole nother level of background check, it's a whole nother level of, safety, security for those drivers that they don't. So really, if you're under 13, you're not supposed to be on those.
So, okay, so we have next steps. You need bus drivers, and once you have bus drivers, then we then discuss whether or not we want to fund a route to pick up the outline that have now been displaced in Jeremy initially, and then anybody else that's.
Yeah, but I want to reiterate that all of the people who are legally required to transport are being transported. right? So we're meeting the minimum requirement. We've been exceeding that minimum requirement, because, we could. Now we can't, and so we're having to mention that back. But even stepping back, not only we not have the driver, we don't have the trainer to train the driver. Right, so we think we have somebody identified to do that. And once we have that, we've also changed to an electronic mechanism of training where the first half, the CDL portion, we've got an electronic module that we can use. And before we get our driver spun up, which is reach back to some other districts to take advantage of their training assets to get the guys to road training that they need to get out of the field.
How are we advertising for those positions right now?
We've had them through every source that we put out our things for school district and teachers. So stuff like in the job boards, we have run ads in the local paper. The most effective thing for us has been our bus parked out there where the drivers needed and wages, and we'll get that out again. But banners are pretty effective too, so we're going to step up there.
Word of mouth referrals, when people talk to their neighbors or another bus driver says, I really like driving, that seems to be a good tool.
And for the right person, it's the right job, but some other people it's not. It's just a challenge. And we were able to take advantage of a more rural setup here in Park City in the past, because you have people who had agricultural type jobs. They'd work on the farm a little in the morning, they jump on the bus, come back midday, do something, come back later. And so that a lot of people support that now that person wherever it exists in Funnel County.
I think I mentioned my neighbor told me, because I told him about the bus tours, I'm like, you want to drive to sleep? When I grew up, the seniors in high school.
Well,
Like that can be very more.
that's pretty
That's how they would get the bus with the seniors.
But I do want to leave this
Subsidy is a big consideration.
leave this conversation. We are actively, we recognize where we're at, right? We're actively pursuing solutions to it. I'm hopeful that those start driver numbers will increase. And that will come back to you if you get healthy, say, board, what do you want to do with this? Do you want to pay for it, or you want to create some kind of pay for it, right?
What's that risk of not being able to meet the numbers?
We're juggling every day.
Consolidated before, a consolidated route, so that's why when there are space available, you can kind of compact.
And that's what drove that decision to consolidate that route at Deer Valley. We used to not afford the luxury of having a driver go up there 20 minutes for a couple kids. And of course, those couple of kids are important, right? We still want to transport them to school. We do have that consolidated stop at Sweet Alley, but that's the problem. We just cannot afford that slack in the system. We had to pull all that back and not at this place where we're kind of locked in.
Renting vans and drivers to pick up some of those kids.
Even though you still need the driver.
What? Yeah, right, but yeah, they wouldn't have to be bus driving certified,
What about the city drivers,
like the vans.
like that are
Mhm.
part of the city program, that are getting housing and all that stuff? Are they?
Are you talking the micro transit fleet?
No, the actual CDL drivers for the city.
Are they potential drivers for us? We were not competitive age-wise until recently. We haven't had any crossover. We haven't actively tried to poach people.
No, sorry. No, I'm saying like, no. I'm saying like, if you have someone who is, like, because the city I know has, like, they provide housing for some of their bus drivers. Like, if we have someone who's a CDL driver who's driving a city bus, maybe they can pick up a couple extra hours working for us. Like I maybe call Matt Dias and see if he has anyone he can lend us, even on a temporary basis for them to fill in. Because I know they have people and it's like, maybe they can find it in their hearts to lend us or second some of their employees to us for, until we can hire. Or maybe it's going to be more efficient and it gives their people, maybe some of them want to work overtime. Right?
Yeah, the problem you run into there sometimes is the U.S. Department of Transportation rules in terms of number of work hours that you can be actively driving the vehicle.
Which
So,
have changed to considering now,
so is that,
which have changed dramatically over the years.
so, if he's working an 8 hour shift, and then hours within 4 from the school district, he may exceed the youth department transportation rules for hours of service.
Good idea. Look into it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like from a practical perspective, it's, it's more, I guess maybe we're biased, but I would say that getting kids to school is more important than taking skiers from like the hotel to the mountain. And, maybe they can help us by saying, okay, we're gonna prioritize getting the kids to school safely over running a bus route that has one person on it.
Yeah.
From the junction to Sweet Valley. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I'll contact Matt.
Well, the hours might work with that, and it's a decent point, the buses at school times,
Yeah, I guess it's the total number of hours, but like maybe they can mix, maybe they can give their own guys extra, we can supplement their overtime hours or something.
Yeah,
I don't know, just.
and then, back to the communication piece, because it feels that some of the surprise of the notice of the communication was, and you thankfully appreciated acknowledging that. Have we changed, how are we right now then communicating with these families that are in limbo, waiting to hear what we're able to do?
Yeah, the note that was sent out once back in May, the
Yeah.
text, is
Yeah.
posted to the transportation website right now. So Jeremy can go on there and look to see if they're out there.
Okay, but that would be proactively going on and looking.
Right.
Is there any direct communication?
I
with these families that are
did talk to
most
Rich
impacted?
today about pushing a note directly out to the Jeremy Hall
Okay.
parent list. I'm not sure if that happened. I'll follow up on that.
How many families are affected?
It's not a huge number. It's 50 to 70 maybe, I'd say, which is, it's a lot of kids, right?
Yeah.
But we can get most of those kids on the Sweet Safe bus. The question is when you can't,
Right,
then what you do. And like I said, that number is really hard to identify.
Yeah.
When you get how many eligible kids, like my kid, if I could take her to school, I would. If not, she'd take the
Yeah.
bus, never knew what she could do.
Right.
But the spot had been maintained.
I just think it would really behoove us to have that proactive upfront
Mhm.
communication, even if we don't have an answer yet.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
here's what's happening, here's what
Yeah.
we're, and directly to them without having to go on.
Yeah.
Especially those impacted by it.
Okay.
That would help.
I mean,
I know.
a few times, multiple times, 'cause we're all busy getting ready for
Yeah.
school, so like 3 emails to all,
Jeremy?
I would say, just because.
Yeah.
Easy to
That
get.
may have gone out already. I'll have to check.
Yeah, I would do
I did
3
talk with her the
times.
last couple of days.
Then you can't.
Well, have you gotten anything, Mary?
Yeah, you got any?
No, but I am I can hear. I've always been a state parent, so
No,
it wasn't something that was on my radar.
but I mean, did you get one?
No.
Living in that area, yeah. So I think that would be,
So that text.
it would make sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Why can't we
There is a
text
text,
parents?
there's texts that go out.
So maybe there's a text.
So that's, yeah, why couldn't we text something like that?
Like
Yeah.
overdo it.
Yeah.
Overdo
You
it.
cannot over communicate.
Or
Let's try that
it affects
approach.
certain people though, right?
Yeah,
So the
but
problem
so-
is when we send it to everybody, then everybody thinks they're affected, everybody
Yeah, and
panics. so
that's
it's
really,
super-
but let's not, can we do it direct to those who are impacted? Yes,
That's what I.
several times.
Like they send
Uh-huh.
an email on Friday and then they.
Because I don't think that's happening,
Make sure you check. it.
right? If I was impacted by this, I would not have
But actually,
getting back to school, getting ready for
The
school,
ones who
all of that.
need that space available.
I don't know, I
though,
think
they
I
really don't because they've already signed up.
Snow day, buses are running late.
Not only that,
things
but
like
then
that.
it's like they already signed
Yeah,
up.
that's-
I would risk, I mean, they can do it, I would risk it.
Check.
That anybody can not look at it who wants to, but it's worst, I feel, not getting any communication. I would-
Before you, sorry, one more question for you. After school staffing, where is that?
Fully
How's
staffed.
that working? Fully staffed,
The only trouble we're having is before school, we only have about a dozen kids at one of the schools, and the only person who really wants to do it is already an employee, so they'll be overtime now. What do you think we're gonna do just to be able to get those 12 kids to be before school? Otherwise, we are.
That's awesome.
So we won't have the same problem last year
We actually,
where we had to turn kids away because of staffing. We're good. All right, that's good.
Great,
Do any of those people want to drive buses?
yeah. Any adults that can drive buses? One last question, parking, is it true, there's no sophomore lot this year, there's no application for the communications that have gone out? In the high school, I have a sophomore who's gonna be driving, and it doesn't look like there's an option to buy a permit as a sophomore. For the
I'm not
parking.
aware
I
of
don't know.
any changes from last year.
Okay. I don't know what it was last year, so about sophomores, I just,
sophomores are always after the school year starts. So sophomores always find out after the school year starts.
if there's spots left. So the communication, it's not said anything at all about sophomores, it's talked about, come in, if you're a junior or senior, you can get this. So we will be getting something after the school year starts?
That's what happened last year.
But if
Okay.
the sophomores driving to school, where are they gonna park on day one?
Yeah,
That's what
or,
I'm-
or could we maybe get a communication to the sophomore parents that says you will be given an option? Because I think right now what's being read, what I'm hearing is that, oh, it sounds like there's too much construction, so there's not even going to be an option for sophomores to get a parking spot.
Where the sophomores typically park is we rent the L
Church, yeah,
Church
yeah.
And so
right.
then the kids walk around.
And I think the question, is that even
available?
available this year?
Yeah.
Because the juniors were gonna go there. Could we maybe,
I know.
thank you, and then get a communication out about that? I think that would help, because summer, it's money. They're trying to come up with plans. I know several people trying to come up with plans to get their kids to school. If they're not able to drive and park. So, to your point,
We get it.
yeah. Again, I just think that's a communication thing. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks. Thanks. All right.
Yes.
Welcome, Stacy Briggs.
Hello. We have a few things to report on. In continuing to provide both extended school year and in an effort to close opportunity and attainment gaps, Park City School District's Community Education Department led a successful summer school program. This program included academic skill building and enrichment activities, and special thanks to Todd Clarich and Katie McGinn for their leadership of the program. In preparing for the new school year and in bolstering the academic system, Teaching and Learning hosted administrator launch meetings to address the required topics to launch the year. Professional learning to bolster the data inquiry cycle during school visits and strengthen the professional learning community model that's in place across PCSD. We extended the work from June that teachers and administrators were working on as school was ending to bridge across from 22-23 to the 2023-2024 school year. It was a great way for new members of the team to learn more about PCSD's focus areas in moving the 5-year academic plan forward. Starting Monday, yesterday, new teacher orientation welcomed the new staff across all of the schools, including introducing our new dual language immersion teachers. And we also wanted to shout out PC CAPS, Park City Comprehensive Advanced Professional Studies, and students. They were featured in Town Lift for their work on the design of the mobile information center for the Park City Chamber and Visitors Bureau.
And see, for those listening online, do you want to introduce yourself? And yeah, so we can make sure everybody knows who you are.
Hello, I'm
Hi.
Stacy Briggs. I'm the new Chief Teaching and Learning Officer, which replaces the old office of the Chief Academic Officer.
Welcome, welcome, yeah,
Have been here about 6 weeks and I'm loving it.
great. Where were you before?
In Salt Lake District.
And program.
And on and program. It's true.
She's done the Wasatch Front tour, so now we.
It's time for the Wasatch back. This is better anyway, right?
We think so.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to meet you. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank
Thanks for
you.
being here.
Thank you.
Stacy brings tremendous experience. We're really fortunate.
Dr. Dovett.
All right. Now I'm talking about the strategic plan. So Mary and Shannon, you can't tell anybody because it's a little bit of a conversation presentation too. So the images there are the graduation walk that the students took through Trailside Elementary. It was really fun for students to go back and kind of graduate and visit their teachers. That was a fun new tradition that started last year, and we're really looking forward to that continuing. So that was a fun engagement activity for our Trailside families and students. And then the bottom picture was from Friday night, and Colton took that picture at the football game with his drone. He is an amazing photographer, so don't hesitate to take your shot, your picture with him, because he does a great job. And that was, we were predicted to be only a point win, but we were trounced Wasatch, and that's, the big rivalry. So it was really kind of a fun start to the year. We do want to welcome a lot of people this year who are really going to bolster our academic team. I feel very confident about the structure that we have in place. I'm really excited about it. We tried it last year. I don't like to use the term pilot, but we tried last year having an elementary and a secondary coordinator. It worked very well. So we are happy to have Eric Snyder here with us. He's from out of state, Tennessee originally, and then Amy Jenkins, who's moved over from Eckerd Hill to this elementary director role. And those two work along with Lindsay Huntsman in CTE and with Stacy as the academic team. Dr. Rose is our new principal at Eckerd Hill Middle School. He comes to us from Tooele School District, where he was a high school assistant principal. And interestingly, I was telling Randy about it, and I said, we hired someone really tall. I don't know if he's taller than you, Randy. And Randy walked out, met Dr. Rose and said, Garrett, he worked with him the first year he was a teacher in Utah. So kind of fun. Who is taller?
I think he is, yeah.
Very tall. Very tall. So Dr. Rose will bring a very welcoming relational presence to Eckerd Hill, and he's very academic oriented. He worked for the State Department for a while in academics. So great speaker, great writer, and very welcoming personalities. I think our families and our students will really enjoy him over at Eckerd Hill. Dan Gallery moved from his role in special ed, where we adore him, to the new preschool coordinator, where we will also adore him. And he is so excited about really bolstering and expanding preschool offerings throughout these next couple of years. He's a great leader to have in this role. Our first ever fine arts coordinator is Brett Hughes. We're so excited about that role. It takes part of what Dave Halleck was doing in Echo Theater and combines it with a K-12 look at fine arts, which we've never had that focus before. So we're absolutely thrilled. He's such a talented person, and there's a big pool of candidates for that job, probably 26 people
For that job?
for that job.
And you're back from his old job?
And we are to backfill his whole job, correct? But he did hands and shoulders above anyone, and thrilled to have him in this spot. Also thrilled to have John Hall in a math and science teacher on special assignment role. Our last math and science coordinator retired, so it's nice to bring John over. He's coming over from the high school, but he has served in a coaching role before, and he has looked K-12 before. So thrilled to have his expertise here. Michael Santa Rosa, who's a parent in Park City Schools. I believe he has students at Jeremy and at Eckerd Hill. He is our new Title IX and internal compliance coordinator. He is an attorney, comes out of the Hill Air Force Base. Is that the Army?
Air Force.
Air Force. Which is he, Mike? I can't remember. It's Air, but where is he? But where was Michael Santoro? So what he is Air Force? I don't know. We'll find out, but he's a military person. He's Army. That's what I thought. So he wasn't at Hill.
No, he was just stationed here during COVID.
Station here during COVID, but thrilled to have him. He's bringing lots of great background skill, has immersed himself in training, and as mentioned, has already trained our deans and our principals on some of this process. And then we moved Elaine Kisbury and Carla Alvord, who are current teachers or interventionists, we've moved them into these elementary student service dean positions. So each of them will have 2 elementary schools, will assist with any kind of, again, investigation, discipline, providing and bolstering support. So we're really thrilled with the team that we have and happy to welcome them back this year. We do have a strategic alignment document. So we've taken all those little bits and pieces that we talk about each month and put them into kind of one document. It's not too long, but this tonight kind of highlights all of those areas. So we always talk about the vision and mission of the school district. Our new teachers had a chance to work with the vision and mission at their orientation. So really important to keep this in mind. Again, all of you know, 3 of you at least were on the board, I believe, or maybe only 2 of you were on the board in 2017 when this was revisited, and a large community group came together and really stated the priorities, the community priorities for the district, which are to keep kids safe, supported, engaged, challenged, and healthy. So it's the whole child focus. And then our mission to inspire and support all students equitably to achieve their academic and social potential. And we have lots of examples in bringing that educational equity to life and equitable outcomes to life. For one example, high school had 200 additional AP tests taken this year, and their overall pass rate went up 2% over the year before. So adding kids who may have may not be your typical AP student, but yet has an interest in AP chemistry or AP biology, but give them the opportunity, let them take the test and see how they do really well. So it's a great equity initiative that is benefiting all students. We had some of our first Dream Big students pass an AP chemistry test, pass an AP biology test, lots of celebrations in the Dream Big and Bright Futures program over that. So really exciting when you speak a different language, but you can achieve at the highest level. It's a great, great testament to what work the educators are doing and the students are doing to prepare themselves for that highest level of academic course. We have our strategic pillars in place, and those pillars are also aligned to our core values of academic success, leadership, developing leaders. We see even from the chart, the different people that moved internally into these roles, excellent personnel. We're bringing the best and brightest up to Park City Schools. Communication, continue to work on improving all we can. The website went live on Friday, already had a glitch with the template, so Colton's been working tirelessly on that. In our 7-school district, we have about 1,600 pages that back out that website, so it's not an easy project, it's a really complex project. This is our purpose, this is our why. When those students toss those graduation caps, we know that this is what we're here for. We're here for the end result and the outcomes. And those of you that participated in the June board meeting, we had 398 graduates. We have 1 more student that finished, 1 more on his way to the GED. So hopefully we'll have that total completion rate, which is very exciting. We have 113 different universities and colleges kids are attending. We've got 80% of the class going to school. 66% of the first gen students are going to a 2 or 4 year program. So really great data across the graduating class of 2023. So excited for them and can't wait to see what the class of 2024 is going to be doing.
Quick question.
Yes.
About our graduates in our high school.
Yes.
How many of our high school, I'm just going to narrow it down to their graduating class, completed concurrent enrollment classes during their high school time?
Yes, I will give you that number, but yes, it is a lot.
It's a lot. I mean, I figured it.
It's a lot, it's over half. So it's very exciting. And that is also a great metric. And those numbers are also increasing. So we're really trying to, and that program, as a parent, I would be even more interested in that program because those community college or University of Utah Valley University, those credits stay with you. Yes. We had someone come back 15 years later and those credits count for them.
I think that's an incredible equity opportunity for all the students to get college credit while they're in high school at what is it, $20? I mean, it's very low cost to UVU or
for getting credit.
and then The year, potentially a lot of your college requirements.
And so any teacher who's teaching that is certified by the higher ed system to be able to teach those courses, and they are teaching a parallel curriculum to what's happening on campus, so they're taking the same assessments. But they are on campus, and doing really well. Great outcomes there. I know Shannon could probably give this speech because he's the counselor. Anything I missed, Shannon? Do you know the number of the dual enrollment or the concurrent enrollment? I know it's a large.
But it's a
lot.
We have a lot of students that take that.
Awesome. So as part of our strategic and tactical approach in the school district, we've been looking at, how we're doing our reaching the summit. So this year we're at acclimate, right? So we're trying to acclimate halfway through the climb. And we try to work on the 30,000 foot view, which is our why, purpose, which again, I showed the image of that, students. And then the what are our priorities, those things that we're taking on as strategies that Stacy talked about some of those. And then the how is our plans. That's what we're working on together. Through this year, we have the new org chart. We have the new version of it. And every year the org chart is a part of Randy's budget book. So it always becomes published that way. But normally we have our academic system, we have our business services, and we have our operations, which Mike talks about all the operations, Stacy talks about all the academics, and then Randy is business services. But what we've done is we've also had student services kind of remain its pillar as well. So student services oversees the school nurses, the counselors, the outreach liaisons, a lot of our grant supports, our deans, and also the learning center. So I wanted you to see that that is also, rather than being under academics, we've kind of separated that out for this year. That gives Stacy, of course, the opportunity to learn the very big system of academics, and Dr. Simon is well qualified to be able to do this role. So when we look at cabinet level roles, you can see the cabinet members. We have a fairly tight cabinet. It's the superintendent, business administrator, chief operations officer, chief teaching and learning officer, the student services officer, and then HR. So that makes up the cabinet team. Our theory of action, we had talked about, that's more of the academic lens. So our theory is if we engage students in learning using rigorous standards-based curriculum, evaluate their learning based on standards, and analyze the learning data to adjust and provide individualized support, then all of our students are going to have be actively served and supported. So this is the theory of action that is in place. This is through the chief teaching and learning team. This is something they came up with along with the 5-year strategic plan. And it is something that I think keeps us our eye on using data to make good instructional decisions for kids. Other priorities that we are going to face as we head into this year, let's see if we can get this link to work. Because people will talk about wellness, which all of you know about when we have the Associate Super Wellness, so the wellness plan is finally done. When people ask why would you do a wellness plan in schools, I think this will give a great answer.
Be smart, be strong, be brave, be kind.
So from the mouth of the babe. So if anybody asks, why is your school district working on a wellness plan? As a priority, it really does help us to introduce the build capacity of our staff and our students, right? To be able to have the 5 main ideas of self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness, right? That was a really socially aware little girl. She knew she wasn't always kind. So we are going to be working on implementing that plan across classrooms, K-12. Some of you know that your kids have learned mindfulness skills. They've learned the deep breathing. Even in our preschool classrooms, they use a lot of these different strategies, and they come home and some of them, the kids teach their parents about breathing deeply in traffic and all those kinds of things. So we're going to support our PLCs, and our staff will work in their PLCs to introduce these wellness lessons together. So it's not just about a counselor coming in, it's about what we can do to integrate themes and these concepts each month across the district. So it's kind of a fun, it's a program that came right out of the Reach the Summit Teacher Academy. So it helps build teacher leadership, and then we all build up. So we're excited about this. Our actual visible outcome from this priority will be that our students will incorporate and demonstrate skills aligned to the portrait of the graduate. Our student engagement and belonging climate results will continue in a positive trend. You can see the last set of data there. And our classroom lessons will be planned and reviewed by LCs. Our second key priority for the 23-24 school year will be to implement the educational equity policy and to see some actionable outcomes from that work. So we traditionally have our expectations, we then provide support, and then there is accountability for this work. So as a team, we are doing an external partner is conducting an assessment that's been commissioned, it's underway. They've done the first 2 phases. When teachers come back, we'll have some surveys at the beginning of the year, we'll have some parent surveys, we'll have some focus groups, and then they will bring us a report for us to create other action plans. We'll be building the procedures that follow the policy. We'll continue with our quarterly meetings as a committee where we're looking at the equitable outcomes data. We'll be introducing a new program this year for the high school where the students will actually receive an insight card. So the students and the staff will provide information at the end of first quarter. It will actually generate a cute little, almost looks like a goal sheet or like a report card, but it talks about what I want to be when I grow up, the classes I might want to reach into. If I haven't taken an advanced course, maybe why not? And then it helps the teachers, the counselors, and the parents work on course selection in a way that meets hopefully every child's needs. So these are some of the things we'll be doing. We have educational equity training modules that will be going out to all staff that some of our staff are helping to develop. And we are working to intentionally focus on removing obstacles or barriers to access for learning. So those are some of our equity strategy tactics. And in the way we'll know this is working is we will close attainment gaps in our end of year results. We will bolster student success in those outcomes, and then we'll continue to celebrate when our kids do really well. And then the final top priority that I see for this year is coming out of the pandemic world, moving from kind of that sustaining into transforming. What does it mean to really redesign the system around the learner? How do we go about doing that? And that's leaning very heavily on the academic system. We've had that redesign of our organization in the academic realm. We have year 3 of the strategic plan underway, and we are going to just keep an eye on the data, the MTSS data, which we've implemented that really, really well and a lot faster than I anticipated because of Aiden Campbell's great work with it. And really focus on the future of learning because the redesign goes along with the construction and goes along with as we transition into that new grade alignment. So we're on a nice time frame for making some visible results, which include the goal of the 100% graduation rate, 75% of students meeting ACT college career readiness benchmarks in reading and English. 90% of students reaching math proficiency by the end of 8th grade. These are 5-year goals before everybody panics. 5-year goals. Having at least 90% of the kids hit 3rd grade reading level by the end of 3rd grade. And then 80% of our students reaching English language learner proficiency within 5 years. This year we had great results with about 50% of some of our schools kids graduating out of meeting their MLL support for English language support. So these are the big picture goals. These are the big picture 5-year goals. And these are our milestones that the teaching learning team has been looking at and reviewing. And they really do call for very deep work within each of the classrooms and grade level spans to reach this high level. So in summary, the wellness plan supports whole child. It'll be K-12 across the system with every teacher having the ability to bring in kind of a monthly theme, focusing on all of the wellness and self-regulation skills. Educational equity, we're promoting, supporting, leading, training, and really building out that administrative procedure. Acclimate is the creating conditions for staff and student success. It's the 3rd year of the academic strategic plan, and the exciting work of redesign is moving from sustaining to transforming the system. We do this through our purpose-driven learning organization with our clear vision and mission. And our purpose, of course, all of our kids and their successful graduation. I love that line of parents taking the picture, that cracks me up. How do we know when we're successful? We're going to look at our report cards every year in our data, and we're going to see high levels of engagement, belonging and support, high levels of academic success. We're going to hear that our educators, staff, and administrators all feel valued, heard, and appreciated, and communications. We'll hear back that they're timely, frequent, clear, accurate, and dispel myths from misinformation promptly. So those are our aspirations for our 23-24 school year. Happy to answer any questions. Or continue to work on all of these things. So we try to put things in a structure and a framework.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right, we will move on to 4.01 district facilities update.
I'm sorry. Not my desire. Just want to start off by saying with all of our school projects, they've been planned to minimize educational impact, ensure safety for the students and staff, and minimize traffic and parking disruption. We've got weekly meetings, construction meetings are being held with the architects, builders, and district staff to ensure timely coordination and decision making. MOCA is also, we have JD with us tonight, representative from MOCA. It's also conducting weekly owners meetings. We had one this morning to talk about important upgrades and decisions. I was going to go through the schools and kind of give you a really high level summary of where we're at and some of the top button issues. So you're briefed to talk to the public. Park City High School, it's fully permitted. We have full construction underway and it's on schedule. Much underground and foundation work was completed this summer. Structural steel installation is underway and the walls are beginning to emerge. And we have a substantial completion projection of the spring of 2025. So not this spring, next spring will be available for the next school year. Eckerd Hill Middle School is also permitted. Full construction is underway and it's on schedule. Bus lane modifications are complete and the asphalt's going in this week, last minute, and striped to allow us to return our buses to the bus lane, the modified bus lane. The kitchen renovations, as I mentioned earlier, are underway and will be complete in 2 months. You may have noticed that the south wall and the gym has been demolished. It's gone, and we've got a new temporary one installed, so we can expand that out. The district worked through many challenges to ensure summer access to the athletic fields also, and we'll continue that into the fall. Substantial completion there, just like at the high school, is in 2025. Jeremy is fully permitted. It's full construction is underway and it is also on schedule. Work is progressing nicely as the exterior shell continues to take shape. It's kind of exciting to see that happening. And we're at a point now that the interior work will be protected from the winter weather, which is nice. The bus lane modifications are complete, allowing for return to the new ops there where the buses are operating off of Blue Ridge Lane. We have a play wall installed for playground for kids and working to have playground equipment installed for the start of the new year. Again, substantial completion there is the summer of 2024. So this next coming summer, we should be done in June. McCollin, again, permitted, full construction is underway, it's on schedule. Their work is also progressing nicely, and it's also the interior work will be protected from winter weather. We've had a little bit of a snag with a temporary pre-K playground equipment, which would be installed in early October due to supply chain delay. Traffic flow will remain the same at McCollin and Treasure Mountain as it was last year. And as I mentioned earlier, the concrete barriers and fencing will be removed along Comstock. And we're hoping that that'll be successful for both snow removal and safety purposes. And substantial completion there, just like at June, we should be the summer, next summer. Harley's Park, we're just getting, the project is just taking shape there. Our conditional use permit application was submitted on the 24th of April. It's just going to get approved, we hope, on the 22nd of August by the Centerville Basin Planning Commission. The state project number was secured on the 9th of August, so all the ducks are lining up for a successful launch. Site preparation, SWIP, fencing will begin next week, and interior work will begin at the end of August. We had an option to delay the material work until March to try to minimize impact on the school, but it was gonna push the project completion into October. So we either had to paint up front or paint in the back. We presented those two options to Kim there, and Kim chose to, let's get it done. So we're gonna start right away. The builders, though, will be working closely with Kim to minimize classroom disruption, and we have a meeting scheduled for Friday for coordination. As I mentioned earlier, the roof repairs and the kitchen that was damaged from the heavy snow was complete also. Again, substantial completion there. Instead of being the summer 2024, we hope that to be October of 2024. The interior, we hope they have it done. Good school year start, but the exterior and final touches won't be until October. Maybe able to expedite that a little. Trailside is our last project. We start the coordination with the county. The project number for application with the State Board of Education is about 10% complete. We'll work through the CUP and rezone requirements will be as we need. Design work was initially scheduled to begin again this fall. This morning we canceled that meeting, unfortunately, but we anticipate to start next summer with the trail site with a substantial completion of summer 2025, which is the same as high school in Akron. I want to remind the board that the construction summary update weekly on the district website, and we've got both a layman's narrative and a progress spreadsheet there to allow you to keep track of where things are at. Also, with the new website development, there's a ton of pictures. I think there's a 33 up there that show the elementary schools and floor layouts, some construction pictures. Cole did a nice job of adding those. I just want to touch base a little bit about the Treasure Mountain high soils and where we're at with that. In accordance with the DEQ approved sampling analysis plan, the soil pile sampling was conducted on the 10th of July. Sample results showed lead levels well below the 200 milligram per kilogram. That's a clean soil metric in the main pile, and above that in some places in the later construction piles. So roughly 2/3 of that soil there is considered not even hazardous. None is considered hazardous, it's considered not contaminated. In the aggregate, the soils are considered contaminated but not hazardous, and that allows us to move them if needed to a non-hazardous landfill under what they call Bevel exemption. The piles are currently capped in accordance with the DEQ and EPA specifications and considered to be very safe. R&R Environmental is now completing a materials and management plan for eventual approval by the DEQ EPA, which will inform the remediation process. And the district is exploring options for the potential removal site as we speak. District's owner's rep is here for it, but if you have any really in-depth questions, JD is the man. So he's happy to answer your questions, and I'm happy to field any questions. Yeah, we're about the same place as we mentioned before. We're really early in the process. We're still almost a year out from completion, and numbers are still coming in. I just as I mentioned before, we're within the bounds of inflation in terms of where we're at. Our largest overage actually is from a scope increase that we had at Akron. We were value engineering Akron down to a point that we weren't going to be able to meet the educational mission, and we had to push it back up a little. That's about half of our overage right now. Some of the other is potential from some of the winter conditions that we had to do. But overall, like I said, we're within the balance of inflation, and we'll be able to tighten up those numbers as the project's going to go through.
We just been part and came right in at the estimated number.
Yeah, and also high school, we came in with $30,000 under the budget right now. So.
And then that's good news about the soils, that weren't we looking at potentially paying a lot to have to move that to special.
For
This soil.
the turning on. So, yeah, that project, if we're forced to move it, it's going to be a $2 million project.
Oh, so that still is.
Hazardous material, you have to go to a special place,
Right.
non-hazardous can go to.
Okay, that's what
Normal.
yeah, if they're not having.
That would be the $13 million project. So we're going to have to work with Randy and to see what our options are, if we can find a funding source for the soil movement if it has to happen. And we are actively looking at some sites or maybe some grant opportunities, maybe we can help our legislators, our legislators, or maybe the EPA to help us along. But It's kind of unfortunate that we're forced to move it.
But we don't know yet.
We don't know yet, but we think it's leaning that way. He's indicating, that's a strong likelihood. But if we do, like I said, it's unfortunate that we can't maintain it on site to potentially fill a hole that's created by Jeremy demolition. So we'll have the whole soil off, no, have the whole soil back, which is counterintuitive and a big waste of money, but it's, it's the EPA, it's the world we're living in now.
I may have missed it. What is the delay on Trailside that went from having, we had to cancel the meeting this fall?
No, we had our first kickoff meeting for design scheduled for this morning, and it ended up getting canceled for a number of reasons.
Okay, so it's just that one meeting.
Yeah, we're gonna be doing weekly.
The timeline is still the same.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay, I misunderstood.
Yeah, I apologize for that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have 2 policies for posting. I'll entertain a motion to post policy 9030 alternative language services and policy 10020 truancy.
I make a motion to post policies.
All right, do we have any questions or comments on either of these 2 policies?
I would like to invite Mary Morgan to share some information about what happens when kids don't go to school. But I thought you would share some a while back, like if a kid misses a day of school, a quarter, a day a month. This is not really any. But it was just about the compounding effect of what children miss out on and their, opportunities to learn and really it might just seem like a day or 2 here or there, but it really can add up and mean that they're missing out on a lot. I thought it was something that some information that you would share, but maybe
That's okay.
I recall incorrectly. I just thought an educator, or maybe Dr. Phil saying that when something can seem like, oh, it's not that big of a deal,
Yeah.
but really it can.
So Utah has pretty specific rules, like most states, about truancy, which kind of got put to the side for sure. Because if your kids are sick, we want them to stay home. You don't want them to be at school when they're not feeling well, because they're not going to learn well anyway. But they really relaxed everything to the point that there were no sort of penalties, and now it's kind of coming back to the center, where we're saying, hold it, there's such a big issue now.
I found it. It was on Facebook.
Yes.
Yes.
It matters. When a student misses 2 days a month, they will miss 20 days a year. They will miss 30 hours of math over the school year. They will miss 60 hours of reading and writing over the school year. They will miss over 1 year of school by graduation.
Wow, that's only 2 days a month.
2 days a month.
Yeah, so I did crazy.
And if they miss 4 days a month, they will miss 2 years of school by graduation.
I think that you're right, coming out of the pandemic where we all maybe felt like, oh, a little loosey goosey about things and just to not, because it's that little, it can have a significant impact on students.
2 days a month is 90% attendance. That's one of the things like you're saying that's so shocking, because you think 90% attendance isn't so bad.
But it has a big impact on learning. As a reminder to.
Yeah, the United Way in Utah has done, United Way nationwide, has done a ton of work on research on truancy and attendance having an outsized impact on academic performance. And that's something that they worked with us several, probably 5 or 6 years ago about that, but it's a huge determining variable. And we used to have actual truancy officers, but they got rid of that too. So pre-COVID, they which is kind of a shame. But there's also, I would say, one of the things like you don't necessarily think about, like some of them are related to childcare situations. A lot of the absentee, like transportation, which we've gone over today, but like if I'm recalling correctly, dental is one of the top reasons for absenteeism in the state, things like that. And so I think, I would hope that as we start to roll out some of these wraparound services in the communities that are new schools, we can deal with some of the issues like dental, pre-care, things like that, so. But yeah, I totally agree, Meredith, it's a good call. All right, all those in favor of posting these two policies, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have 5 policies for adoption, policy 2020 student clubs, policy 7085 employing licensed staff, policy 7100 professional staff transfers, policy 9110 acceptable use policy, and policy 10107 head injuries.
Make a motion to adopt policies.
Lori, do we have any comments from the public on any of these 5 policies? Okay. Do we have any conversation or questions on these 5 policies as stated? All right, all those in favor of approving the 5 policies will directly say aye.
Aye.
Okay, wonderful. Those are approved. Okay, we have the State Board of Education requires the Board of Education to review preliminary fee items and provide an opportunity for public comment. This is a public opportunity for feedback with no decisions to be made at this board meeting. Park City High School is requesting the addition of a sports performance fee to be added to the list of approved fees for the FY24 school year. There is a document in the board docs that outlines a fee amount of $40 for sports performance. Yeah, what
Per student. So this is a fee that came in late from the high school. It's an opportunity for they're contracting now, the opportunity to have a coach to work with athletes in the off season. Athletes that are interested in working in the off season to help with that. Right now, they do have some funding to do that. They're afraid they're gonna run out of that funding. That's why they've asked to charge this $40 fee. So that would be charged to those that are participating in athletics. We'll see to that thing.
It would be charged to students, even those who would not have a chance to take the advantage of off-season training.
It would be charged to each student, yeah. It's correct.
only the students training.
Each
I know, but
student
students
involved in
on a team.
athletics, correct.
Who are not doing, would not do the off-season training,
So if a student chooses not to do the off season, incorrect,
they'd still pay the $40.
correct,
Yeah.
yeah.
Why?
My guess is because they wouldn't generate enough to pay for the services, right? And like I said, they've got other funding sources right now that they're using. Their fears are gonna run out of those funding sources. That's why they're asking to try to. We're happy to get, specific questions by the board, happy to get more information and have a high school representative to discuss it. As the fee process requires a reading, first and second reading, obviously. So.
I would love more information and consider, I think my big concern would be those, if everybody's required to pay. I would imagine those who take advantage of it are ones who don't have to work off-season, who have transportation, have the ability to go train off-season. And those who don't have the opportunity to take advantage of it would be paying essentially and supplementing for these kind of private trainings that are already happening around town. And maybe I'm missing something, maybe this gives an opportunity for students who don't otherwise have opportunities for private training, but I would be thoughtful about understanding if there's been heavy student ask for this, if there'd be a process of who and how it happens, where it happens, what field use, all of those things play into it, because there's so much off-season stuff that's happening in private through youth,
Yeah, is it, what sports specifically? Is it boys, girls, is it soccer?
Yeah, I think,
Like-
I believe it'd be, all.
Maybe maybe you could drill down and just provide more information. on this,
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
possible.
So I'll go with Mr. Sheets and Mr. Arbogin and get more information and then get that to you well before the next meeting.
yeah.
Perfect.
So we need to go
That'd be
there.
great.
So
Thank you.
we do need to have a public hearing, so we just need to have it and then so we open it up to the public to.
Yeah, do we have any comments on this fee schedule?
Is the door open?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have someone. I know, like, welcome in last.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, yeah.
Okay, do we have anyone here for public comment otherwise? All right, In that case, we have a truth in taxation, and tax decision. So to start, no earlier than 6 p.m. I will entertain a motion to adjourn to a closed session for the purpose of discussion strategy session on purchase, exchange, or lease of real property.
I make the motion to adjourn to go into closed session.
Okay, I will go around one by one. Nick. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Monday.
Yep.
I also agree. We'll move into closed and then we'll come back out here to close the regular session. Thank you.
I've never been accused, but.
And like math. But I was and he was that Friday, and I had this huge ass.
sorry.
I make a motion to close. Hold on, Lori, already getting our audio on. Okay, we're good, go.
All right, sure. Entertain a motion to close this meeting of the Park City Board of Education till our next regularly scheduled meeting, which is September 19th at 4 P.M.
I make a motion to close the regular, this board meeting until our next board meeting. Second.
Okay, all those in favor of closing?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
meeting's adjourned. 10 minutes. September 19th at 4 P.M.
I will be out away,
Okay,
far away.
the 19th.
That's where the.
Are we all, are you here? Okay, here.
And we're fine. Yeah. Okay, so I just happened.
Yeah.
Where he's coming, he will be right by, listen where.
I got some slides standing. Just
Let's go into input, and see if it's last.
Should I was other than that? Okay.
But I know the friend, so she.
That's why I'm not a whole. That's the goal I trained with in this back. There and they don't see me do this. Oh, she's missing.
I heard it's.
Sorry, it wasn't trying to be. That's the ask when the next meeting.
10 minutes. All right.
For that.
Yeah.
No, there are animals cooking us, so. We spy on them. How nice can we have? Because I'm. But it's easy to spy. Do you know? Yeah, there's the color on it, you know, it's kind of getting up. Because I think the work is to spy on them. But yeah, I'm spying on them. Yeah. Look. But it's not. Oh. Yeah. So you didn't know.
I love it.
They've lost that, we've done more.
Yes. There's the kind of say one.
I think they've tried to do more, they want these taxes, so.
Right.
Was my point, I just all around Michigan driving out here from the team, I'm not sure anymore, I don't. And I don't understand, it's just, and more. And I'm such, I want to. She is. She is.
Right, I know that you're senior. That was the adventure. That's. Well, that was. So it's not. Our younger. So is it?
Okay, we will declare the 2023-24 truth and taxation proposed budget public hearing open. The board will now accept public comment from anyone here. Do we have public comments, Lori, for this, or are we gonna do it separately?
We can do whatever, they're loose.
Yeah, so is anyone here interested in making public comment on the proposed budget or tax increase? You just raise your hand. Questions?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, can you explain a little bit more, or, just give a brief summary?
Yeah.
Sure. So I'll just kick off a couple brief things, layman's terms, and then Randy Upton, who's our business administrator, can give more details. So every year, we certify 4 rates. One is the board local levy, one is the voted local levy, one is the debt service levy, which applies only when we have debt, which we do right now. And then there's a capital local levy. There's 2 more rates that are set by the state legislature. One is a basic school levy and one is a charter school levy. Park City School District is somewhat unique in that we fully fund our schools through local tax dollars. So Utah as a state is one of the poorest funded states with regards to public education. It's one pool of money, which includes primary, secondary, and higher education. So there's one bucket of money that the Treasury doles out, and it's included in University of Utah and all state schools, et cetera. Also every year on your tax statement, you get an assessed valuation. That has nothing to do with the school district. That has to do with the county assessor. They don't assess the value on everyone's house every year. They tend to move in neighborhoods and streets within neighborhoods. So you'll notice that not every year does your value go up, but in the last 2 years, most values have gone up considerably. Anecdotally, commercial values skyrocketed. The commercial assessor hadn't moved valuations in quite some time. And so there's a lot of people who are seeing the value of their property increase on that statement. We have a decision to make every year, which is, do we keep the rates constant? Do we lower them or do we raise them? In most years, in the past 10 years, we've raised rates, I believe, 3 times. Many years they've lowered. And the reason for them lowering is primarily because the overall value of the property in our community has risen so much. So the last 3 years, I believe the overall property value has doubled. Anecdotally, from the last 8 years, we started out with the average home price in our school district at, I believe, 600,000. It's now 1.2. So in 8 years, not just in Park City proper, in all of our school district, it's more than doubled. In line with that, a lot of people's house assessments have gone up. This year, we are raising our rates. Or we're raising, one rate, the total tax rate is gonna be, a bit higher. The reason for that is a budget increase, which, almost exclusively goes to pay all of our employees higher wages. For many years, we've been paying below market rates, especially to what we refer to as our classified employees. That's everyone who is not a licensed teacher. The district has about 800 employees, about half of them are licensed, half of them are not. Put it into context, our starting salary for an hourly employee was about $13. If you look around town at the banners outside of Smith's and Taco Bell, it starts in excess of $20 an hour. We had serious staffing shortages. We continue to in certain positions such as bus drivers, but in making these salary adjustments, we've actually been able to staff important positions that provide for support and safety for our students. So that's kind of the general, where we've been over the past several years or over the past decade. Raised on an average house in our district, which is $1.2 million. And again, that's the average statistically speaking. That's not how much everyone's house here is worth. 1.2 million. Our tax rate increases is how much?
Four increments, about $220.
So $220 per house. So when you look at your green sheet that came, you'll see an increase for the district on a like-for-like year-over-year basis. For every average house of 1.2 million in value, the increase that the school district has voted on, the school board, us as a unit, is responsible for $220 of that. There are other line items on there. There's waste, there's, depending on where you live, different water districts. And then there's also, different county assessments. But then the biggest variable year to year is how much the assessor valued the property at. So that's kind of a bit of a briefing. Does that help summarize?
Yeah, I do have a question. Can I ask?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Are you aware of appraisal and how they are appraising properties? Is there anyone that can speak to that?
So that's done exclusively by the county. You'd have to call a county assessor's office. We don't have anything to do with the value of people's properties or the assessment of them. Yes.
So your assessments are driven by need as opposed to actual value?
The assessment, you mean the value of the homes? So, yeah. The value of the homes isn't controlled by us, that's controlled by the county.
But you're charging against the student value.
Correct.
To the homes now. That amount that you charge is driven by what you need.
Correct.
Opposed to the actual real market value of the homes involved.
Well, there's two variables, right? One is the assessment of the value of the home, right? That's out of our hands, that's controlled by the county. The county.
You get an input from that?
They give us an estimate while we're in the budget season. So we budget every spring. And in the spring, the county will give us an estimate on a percentage basis of how much they think the overall property market has either risen or fallen in any given year. That ranges from, or in the last 10 years, it's ranged from probably down 2% to up 6%, and anywhere in between, right? Those numbers on average, I would say, are actually lower than what the actual increase in true value on the homes have been in our district.
And that's on an average basis for a neighborhood.
That's on an average
That
basis.
neighborhood, an individual specific home might not have had that same movement.
Absolutely. And in fact, taking it one step further, they don't assess every home in every neighborhood every year. They don't assess every neighborhood every year. So they give us an average expected value increase or decrease, and then they certify that in July or August. They actually finalize in June, sorry, and give us the final number of the increase. But again, that's an average. That is not your house. That's not my house. That's the average across essentially 84060 and 84098. So it's, yeah.
So the average value has gone up, the average amount of the tax for this increase is 220. But the percentage increase is much higher than the numbers that you've suggested in the past. It's 24.9% increase from last year.
Ours is 50%.
Ours is 50.
Well, hold on, so there's.
No, what I mean, well, I'm not saying my gross tax. What I'm saying is the Park City School District proposed budget amount has gone up by 24.9%, that line item.
So there's a number of different things that go into that, right? One is, you know, in this case, what we're doing for compensation for our teachers, which is a significant, and all of our staff, I should say. It's not just teachers, it's all of our staff. Another one is how much the state takes from us and reallocates to the rest of the state, right? So our budget this year is what, 110 million, Randy?
Yeah.
Of that, $29 million, right? So $29 million, so 25, on a percentage basis, 25% gets recaptured and distributed to other school districts around the state. So, you know, we are far and away the highest tax is a bad choice of the word, the highest recapture of any school district in the state of Utah. And I would argue probably, with the exception of maybe a few in California, the highest in the country. So they take $29 million, and that's your money, that's my money, that's everyone here's money, and they give it to other districts. The way they do that is they have a WPU, which is a weighted pupil unit, right? So they decide, okay, in the state of Utah, every student, we're going to spend $5,000 on every student, right? Then they look at the property tax collections from every single district, right? Some districts have property tax collections well in excess of $5,000 per student, like Park City. Many, especially the more rural districts, have property taxes that are way lower than 5,000 a student. And so the way they do that is,
Okay, well, hold on, that's 25%. What you're saying is for every dollar we pay in, only 75 cents.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got it. Now let's talk about the 75 cents.
Mhm.
So he's talking about a 25% increase.
Yeah.
And you're saying that only 75% of that 25% increase stays in the district.
That's right.
Let's just talk about the 75%.
Sure.
That's the piece you have control over. That's the piece you're spending. That's the piece we want to understand about.
Yeah, so the vast majority of that, and in fact, the vast majority of every year, our budget goes to compensation. I believe it's something like 90%.
Okay, but you're saying something. You want us to pay, people's houses, several hundred more dollars per month forever. And you're just a little too vague, is how it feels.
Okay, well, let me clarify. It's all compensation for employees.
Okay, but
So what is vague about that?
Well, it's.
What would you like clarification on?
It's a description that is one sentence, and it has nothing to do with where are the decisions actually getting made. That's true, whether you raise taxes or not. What you just said is true if taxes go down. Now, taxes are going up. We want to understand, why are the taxes going up so much? And
So the
your
tax-
one
so let me-
sentence response of it's going to wages is just not very substantive. So we're just looking for a little more detail.
So do you want to know exactly how much each, like classified, non-classified, the different areas are going up?
You know what? I've got one 8.5 by 11.
Yeah,
It says that my taxes are gonna go up 50%.
Yeah. no, I'm asking you what you want us to clarify right now.
Yeah, so what I'm looking for is a lot of detail, actually.
Great.
You wanna have this one little meeting, but actually, I'm a little surprised there's only this many people here. Like it's August 15th, because everywhere I run into town, people are saying, can you believe this thing with the property taxes? And it's kind of mind blowing to me personally, that they're going up this much this year. And that you guys are actually raising the proposed budget, as this gentleman has said, this much. In my view, that is tone deaf. This is a lot of money.
Well,
And you know what? Burger King pays $20, fine, let's talk about it. But I just think there's a lot of money going out and there's not a lot of disclosure. And I don't think this is like a very detailed, review of how this money's all going out. This gentleman asked this question about 25%. You started spending paragraphs of explanation about how the state takes 25% of that.
But that's not the part we control. What we control is what we choose to do in this meeting. And that's the piece we want to talk about. So then when you give me one sentence. saying,
So I'm sorry, what,
wages.
can you clarify what your question is? Are
Yes.
you asking who
Yes,
are
we
paying
wanna
for you?
under- I would like to understand
Where that money's.
where all this money is going,
Yeah.
beyond just it's going to wages.
Okay, so we have an obligation from state and federal law to provide education to all students in this community, right? In order to do that, we need teachers and we need bus drivers and we need custodians and we need people to actually work in our buildings. The problem we have, and we ran into this, and it comes in waves because, you know, it's not necessarily, inflation isn't linear, inflation is exponential, but it comes in waves. We hadn't raised wages for a lot of these employees for many years, right? What ended up happening was we couldn't employ people. We didn't have people applying for our jobs. And the reason is because we weren't paying market rates for wages.
Okay, but
And so what
tax-
happens is,
Tax revenue's been going up every year, and we're looking at these property value.
and many times we've let the rates decline in line with the property tax
Ours haven't
increase.
gone up every year.
We haven't
This is
raised
not raised
tax.
every year.
The budget of this county has gone up meaningfully every year.
Yeah, as gas prices have, as.
Okay, but that's anecdotal.
It's not anecdotal, that's economic data.
That's
No,
like
no,
getting,
but you're using the premise of, oh, gas has gone up, these other things have gone up.
Yeah, inflation.
But it's like, let's just talk about the money that is being spent, because again, you want more money, and we just want to understand.
Okay, so here's some data though. Like CPI has averaged over 6% for the past 3 years. You understand what that means on a compounded basis?
I do.
What percentage is that then?
Okay, listen,
It's over 20%,
but
okay?
hold on.
So no, you listen to me now. It's over 20%.
Not 3 years, it's not 20%, 3 times 6 is.
Also.
It's compounded.
Yeah, but still, it doesn't.
It does. We can go into economics 101, but
Okay, you're not
That's-
being polite, and you know what, we're just asking.
nor are you. Next question.
Excuse me, hold on.
I think it's really.
Okay.
Can I?
But the only thing is, he's not adjudicating. this.
I understand that.
Why is it that you make the raises and then you come to us and ask for a higher budget? We as citizens, our expenses have gone up as well.
Yeah.
We can't go to our employers and say our expenses have gone up, therefore give me a raise.
yeah,
I mean, it seems to me like the proper way to do this would be to say to us, we need to give teachers raises and
Yeah.
explain yourselves. And this is how much it's gonna cost you.
We did
And
that.
then come back.
yes.
So we've done
And
that.
if you've got
Yeah.
approval, then give the raises.
So approval, I totally hear you, and we are acknowledging this is a big ask. And we're really appreciative to be in a community where we feel we could ask this. We did have several budget meetings. There's been a lot of public comment on it. We've received a lot of emails, a lot of people who've been tracking this for a long time. And we were very clear that we are asking a lot of our community because our community supports our schools, which is our biggest, we all want good education for all of our students, and better communities have really strong districts. And part of having a strong district is I appreciate that not everybody's salaries went up this last year. Mine didn't. And the job I do, and to the same extent that some of these our staff did, but we felt that our duty to allow for us to attract and retain staff that can work in this community with the confidence and the best educators we can get in a state that is very limited. We're not denying that this is not an ask of the community. We went through this process. Our negotiations started back in, January, Mary? And we were open at all of our board meetings about this process. They came and spoke, teachers spoke, we went on the radio, asked the public and said,
But shouldn't you get approval before?
but what does approval look like? You can't get a vote
That's
like
what the
that's,
legislature said.
yeah.
So
It's-
let's
not an
talk funding
elected
in Utah just for a
decision.
second. So if the district's going after what we call a general obligation bond, there is a vote by the public that's affected by that, so that a district can charge a debt service rate. Under the auspices of public education, the Utah legislature has given elected boards the opportunity with three tax rates outside the debt service rate, three tax rates to be able to set those. So basically, if there's a need, so let's say, for example, Wasatch School District and South Summit School District's paying a starting teacher $62,000 a year, and we're paying $58,000 a year. The board's only means to generate additional funds is to go out for a tax increase. That's the only way to do it. And our starting salary is going to be at $65,000 this year. South Summit's going to be at $62,500. Wasatch is the same. So we're trying to compete with Wasatch Bank districts and Wasatch Front districts to hire the best staff. But the way the legislature set this up is exactly what we're going through now, is a budget is adopted in June. We don't get our tax numbers till June. Everything prior to that is an estimate, which our estimate was anticipated to be higher than what we're showing now. And then in August, there's a truth and taxation hearing. So this board really has no control over the means on which they have to raise funds or go into a vote like you're asking about. It's the way the state legislature has set that up over the years.
But it sounded to me like in the communication that was sent to us, or maybe I saw it on your website, that it said, we've made raises to teachers. We've given them already. We've hired people.
Yeah.
And now, which seems to me backwards. You should come to us and say, we need to hire these people. We need to give raises.
Yeah.
And therefore we want to make an increase in the tax rate.
Yeah, and I think the way this works is that we are elected officials and you put people in to make these decisions, and anyone can run for this position and have the ability to be part of the decision making on this. You've elected us to our fiduciary duty is to all of you and to building and maintaining our mission and district and our decision making. We are coming to you as our only option for helping get more funding to raise what we believe the feedback when we first came out with this was very positive. The majority of the community and the feedback we received was that, oh, good, we're taking care of the staff that is taking care of our children in this community. And we want a strong community this way. And because this is our means of doing that, as elected officials, that's our burden to do it and to do it as well as we can. And we're not denying that it means we're not asking everybody to step up and do an extra piece. It's a screwed up system in that regard. I mean, it would be great if we didn't send $29 million back to the state to equitably serve other districts, frankly, around the state. It would be great if it could stay in our district. That's not how this structure works. And I think we should all go to the legislature and talk to them about that. That is a place where you can vote, and another place you can air your concerns about the way this works. I appreciate that this feels like a burden and that it's a big ask.
Yeah.
And also that you're hearing about it in person. We've been working on this since January. We've had meetings, they've been on the radio, we've been talking about it, we've had task forces, we've had all the teachers, we've had the unions. So it's not like this decision was just made yesterday. This has been months.
Well,
Okay, hold on, we can continue, but let's let other people have it.
Yeah, I wish I attended some of the budget meetings, because the question I'm gonna ask goes back to that. How much is the funded budget in the 3 areas you control increasing on a percentage basis year over year? Can you tell us that?
In terms of the 3 rates that we can control,
Well,
in terms of
so that rate represents a budget. There's a dollar amount underneath that rate, right? That's
Oh.
$100 million budget. How much did that $100 million go up from 1 year to the next?
What was it, 15%?
Oh, well, keep in mind that after COVID, right, there were a lot of federal funds that came in infused into the district,
Okay,
which were one-time dollars. Those dollars are now towards the end of its life. And so the budget's gonna fluctuate. The other piece of the budget that fluctuates is the construction. So in the beginning, you see a large budget amount saying, hey, we've got all these construction dollars, but then as bills get paid out, that goes away.
Which is the M&O, Randy, what's the exact percentage on the M&O side? The
So,
non-buildings.
yeah, that's great. Let's say that.
so property tax, the property tax that this district would generate is $126 million. Now, there's a collection percentage, we'll get a percentage of that, so to speak. And then a percentage of that, or $29 million we're estimating, will go back to the state. Some of it go to pay for bonds.
Okay,
So, you know,
and how much is that number increased over last year?
over the prior year.
Yeah.
So I think on the TNT notice, it's showing, truth and taxation notice, it's showing about a 20% increase.
So the budget's
Taking all public education rates, which this board doesn't set all the rates, but taking all public education rates into account.
so let's just say 20-ish%.
Yeah.
Hey, can you say how much of that is replacing lost COVID funds? Because it sounds like that's a reality.
No, we haven't got to the point yet where we're replacing COVID.
So it's just a 22% increase.
The bulk of this, there's about a $900,000 that we lost in state funding, capital funding,
Yeah.
as money was legislated to the districts for technology and capital.
Yeah.
That money was reallocated to House Bill 61 for safety, which we're trying to access, but we don't have a guarantee we're gonna access it. So that's about $1 million of it. There's a little bit operationally for some requests to take care of support services. It's about 900,000. The rest of it is all wages. And so as we've gone in with market value, and when we're talking wages, we're not just talking wages, we're talking retirement, social security, and there's benefits. Yeah.
So roughly speaking, if the average employee that you employed made $100 last year, they're gonna make $120 this year, because that's where most of the increase is.
116. It was a 16% increase.
Okay.
16% increase. And that was after South Summit School District gave a 17% increase, right?
Gotcha.
And so there was some money from the legislature that was given that teachers would get as well. But overall, we gave a 16% increase. And then we're working on market adjustments for our classified employees, which it's a continual process. We're still going through that process with an outside third party.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
And the number that's an average. The
Yeah.
classified were much higher. And again, that's because we hadn't raised them to market levels in quite some time. Yeah,
So the 16, you said it's an average, it's not just a flat. So I'm
Correct.
gonna talk to extremes. Did like the administrators in this building, are they getting a raise?
now, the administrators are getting a raise in line with they're getting a raise in line with the licensed. So in line with our teachers. The classified had a far greater percentage increase than any other employee. So, yeah.
So what the increase the teachers get, that's the same increase that administrators in Philadelphia get.
Yeah.
What about substitutes? Is this not as well?
Not so administrators, meaning principals.
School.
So all salary
Yeah.
schedules went up at least 16%. Yes.
At least.
Classified was more because of market adjustments, but all of them went up
I thought you
16%.
said average. I thought you said 16.
So every step and lane, if you understand our step and lane system for how we pay, each step and lane went up 16%. Yes.
So in this building, the administrators got at least 16% raise. And was that market value?
The administrators classify each one on the step they're on, they would have got 16%.
What about substitutes?
The
That's a
substitutes we
discussion
find out,
right now,
the schedule, it depends if you're in district subs, we use a company as well, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be what the company, they're gonna be
But
paying,
you guys.
It would be on a percentage basis
Yeah.
roughly higher.
what they're,
What did you say?
It would be higher, right? So all employees that are on an hourly wage, their increase in general, not, I can't say 100% because there's, I think, a couple tech jobs that were already at a really high level that weren't increased. But the vast majority of hourly wage workers got a significant increase.
But subs aren't hourly, it's a day.
Yes, well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I would include them in that pocket.
So, but you said that they do farm it out, it's contracted, but you pay them and
Correct.
they pay the.
yeah,
staff.
yeah, yeah, so that's
So
increased.
it's, that will
Yeah,
increase.
that's
Okay.
And
increased.
again, staffing issues
Yeah.
have been a problem for us in subs, on bus drivers, on culinary staff, pretty much everything, because we haven't been in line market.
Which is, we know, that's kids even getting to school, eating at schools. There's a lot of issues.
Anyone else that hasn't commented or questions, who has questions? Yeah,
Mr.
Go
Foley?
ahead.
The 16%, I heard mentioned that you hadn't increased in a while. Is that something you'd certify that you haven't, that 16% is making up for multiple years of nothing?
As far as employees,
Yes.
yeah, so Park City has a history of negotiating multiple years at one time.
Okay.
So the last few years, I think the increase, I want to say on the salary schedule has been about 2.5%.
Okay.
Not near enough to keep up with the inflationary. So what you saw, I was in a previous district before this one. And when I was in that previous district, at one point you saw Park City go like this, jump above what other teachers were being paid, partially because of cost of living into attract. Then the other districts started saying, hey, we got to catch up to them. And that's what's happened over time. So now you've seen inflation go since COVID, of course. And now we're seeing the trickle effect on the property values, right? We've seen that 2 years in a row now, overall on an average. And so you see other districts catching up. Well, to have us at the same place as everyone else with our cost of living is really difficult to attract employees. And so that's why as we got into this discussion this year, the board made a commitment to, hey, we've got to be able to attract and retain employees to keep them here when going to other districts. And honestly, we thought we were going into it to make a splash with employees. Now what we see other districts are paying, we're not making a splash. We're barely above. When you compare the cost of living here to other districts that are paying $61,000, $62,000, you know, the costs in Park City are a lot higher. And so it really puts our employees at a disadvantage. So,
Thank you.
Did you have some more questions for Ilsa? Okay, anyone else have questions, comments?
Just to clarify, so basically our like 50% increase in valuation and last year was over 40%. Basically, we are gonna appeal that to go to a different summit to appeal it, and you're just telling us here in this meeting, there's very few people came considering the non-increase, is that you've increased because 16% of the salaries in schools have gone up. But where's the other, like 35%?
remember to answer. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one thing to understand about property tax, and property tax is not simple, I get it. Everyone around this table is going through raises in property tax this year. Mine's at 45, 48, or somebody said they were 50%, mine's at 48%. With the thing about property taxes, it's set up as a system that as the assessed value goes up, that rates go down and the entities to receive the same amount of revenue. But that's on an average basis. Most of you sitting in this room aren't on an average basis, because if you were, you wouldn't be in this room, right? You've gone up 30, 40, 50%. On an average base, and the other piece of that is when that happens, that assessed value goes up. So this year, for example, assessed value went up 35%. The school district does not receive additional funding from that assessed value going up 35%. The school district will receive money on growth, and there was money on growth that was received, which is why the rate is set at what it is, which is significantly less than what we were thinking it was going to have to be. And so as far as the assessed value itself, that appeal goes to the county. That's correct. So the county is the one that's responsible for the assessed value. And then it's up to these elected officials to take the tax rates that they have a fiduciary responsibility to look at and how to utilize them for funding the education system, to look at that and say, now what do I need to raise this to generate the money we need for our needs here in the school district, which the big one this year was the raises for employees. So yeah, if there's an assessed value issue and you say, hey, I've got comps around my area. I'll just give you an example. One year I had my house appraised to refinance it. And I had the appraisal. The county came in significantly higher. I appealed it, took the appraisal, and they said, yep, okay, we'll lower it. It only worked for 1 year, right? And they raised it the next year. But that's the means where you have to go, is you have to go to the Board of Equalization of the county to have those reconsidered. Okay. This board has no authority over the values of what's on those notices. They only have the capability to set a rate to generate X number of dollars to fulfill the budget needs as they move forward in the new year. Yeah.
Is there a difference, Randy, with the primary home versus the secondary home?
Yes.
The value went up or no?
So-
The other is the
It's just the
secondary.
rate.
It's
So
just-
if you.
So if houses around it sold for a high level, though, is that going to influence the
Yes.
assessment?
Yes, yes, so I would say
just speaking as a realtor, which I am, if you look at that tax document and it has that market value on there, ask yourself, would I sell my house for what this says?
No.
Yes. And ask yourself if properties around have sold for that price. And if they have, I mean, if they aren't going, if you think it's overvalued, then you can ask your realtor friends or, I mean, I'm sure.
Have an appraisal.
But even not having appraisal, we can pull a market, we can show what comps have sold around your house. And if they are lower than what is what you have on your tax bill, then you can appeal, you can use that to appeal. You don't have to pay for an appraisal. But I think a lot of the ones that I've just seen, again, this is anecdotally, just from my experience, they're not at, I wouldn't sell my house for what they've come to me and said the value is. It's lower than what it really, what the true market value. So I'm just, I realize it's a big jump, but there are.
Do you think it's worth providing pictures and say you have a house down the street?
I have a client that just went through this with her property and she talked, this is Wasatch County appraiser, so I live in Summit County, obviously we're here, but he was strictly going on a square footage. That was the only basis that he was using for.
What if you have a house?
So I don't know what, I mean, I can't speak.
Yeah, like- The folks who do house appraisals for mortgages and things like that, they're running a huge
That's-
side business right now, challenging tax increases. So if you know people who do that, or look them up on the internet, like they'll come out and they'll do an appraisal, they'll take pictures, they'll help you, they'll look at the comps, or you can do it yourself.
I've challenged mine every year for the last 3 years, because my taxes have gone up. Well into the teens and 20s and 30s every year for 3 straight years, in this district. Not because of the rates, because my assessed value. I challenged it every single time based on going around and saying, hey, you've got my neighbor's house listed at 3,000 square feet, but it's 8,000 square feet. You've got my neighbor's house says its quality of construction is very high, but mine is exceptional. How do you know? You've never been in my house, right? The only thing that they, after 3 years of them rejecting it out of hand, was get an appraisal.
Yeah. That's my understanding as well, is that the folks who come and do appraisals for bank loans can do an appraisal and they.
And unfortunately, it costs you money.
Yeah. They're like $700.
Someone's got to keep a stand, basically, if we all just like, okay, we'll just read the stuff.
I lived in California right after Prop 13, and that was a whole bunch of people taking a stand, and it probably hurt the state in the long run and the big time, but that's what happens when things just keep going up.
And then,
And this is not, I'm saying this, I asked the questions I asked because I want to separate what is the assessed value of my house from how much are you actually expending to run the school district? I'm frustrated.
Separate matters.
Yeah, I'm very frustrated. I've lived here for almost 20 years. I'm really frustrated. And, I don't know where to turn, and a lot of it's based on assessed value.
Well, can I just say, you should be lucky you don't live on the East Coast.
I lived in New Jersey for a while, so I probably.
I mean, the property taxes there.
The property taxes on my house in New Jersey 3 times. what they-
Right, exactly, but through compounding, we'll catch up.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
all right, and if you guys have any other questions, we're happy to discuss them. Randy, any of us. we're happy to-
A comment, which is given a lot of the discussion here, was just so people can get a sense of what real estate values actually are. If you go to the Park City Board of Realtors website, they have historical data, monthly data going back years. And each month, for different classifications of real estate, it gives the median value. So you can, just to get some general impression, you can collect the data, plot it out in Excel, and you see what the curves are. And for instance, I did this for kind of residence I have, which is a townhouse condo. And in the past 2 years, the median has gone up by 50% on that kind of property. Now, obviously, there are going to be variations, but that's if people want to get some idea, because the Park City Board of Realtors gets all the data and a sale price, not asking price. And so that may help clear up people's ideas about how the market has fluctuated.
But from my, I mean, the actuality of the matter is that what the appraisers are doing in Summit County shouldn't have any influence on what we're discussing here, really, because what we're discussing is the budget. And in fact, what really puzzles me is.
No, so we're just a correction. We're not discussing the budget. We're discussing the tax.
Oh,
It's funded for the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fine. But given the amount that all of our taxes have gone up, because we have a mill rate here, right? You described, is if the amount of taxes that you're getting from the community go up, and they should be going up, right? Because our property values are going up and we've got growth going on, you should be getting a huge amount more, but you're not. Right?
Correct, so.
You're getting what you're asking for your budget.
Yeah.
Yes.
Correct, and so when assessed value goes up, the only piece we capture is for what we call new growth. So somebody builds a new home, it's new growth. Somebody renovates a home or adds on to it, and it gets, that could be new growth. But someone's home just gets revalued because people around you have sold their homes for more, we don't get any additional revenue on it. And so, plus we're dealing with collections, right? So keep in mind that even though most citizens pay their taxes, not all citizens pay their taxes. So we're collecting on top of that about 95% or 94% of really what's coming in as well, right? With Champers's situation. So we do get that new growth piece, which is why, and we talk about it in mills or increments, which is why the increase that we're requesting is a 4 increment increase and not a 5.5 to 6 increment increase because of some of that growth and because the assessed value did go up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So question, I think somebody made the comment that the property values have doubled over, let's say, the last 8 years, something like that. And I'm curious, what, if we look historically at the spending at Park City School District spend per pupil, if we go back, let's say 8 years, and then we look at it this year under the proposed budget, what is the dollar amount from, let's say, 8 years ago? We don't have that readily accessible, some period that's similar, and this year.
Yeah, I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can tell you when we do what we call the ACFR, which is our year-end financial statements. So for example, our external auditors are in right now, closing up the books from last year. That is a piece of data we calculate and can share that.
It's probably roughly double. Like we're the highest per pupil spending in the state, and that doesn't include the money that we get from the Park City Education Foundation, which is also considerably more, and that's all privately raised.
And mind you, the state, we're that in the state, but the state historically has been, what, 50th in the country in terms of
Yeah.
weighted pupil unit?
Sometimes
Compared to
Guam.
49, yeah. Sometimes we're worse off than Guam. We have the lowest WPU in the country.
Right, but that's, I mean, I really struggle with a lot of these analogs because they're misleading. The thing is we have lower rates on many things here. Our cost of living is lower here too. So say Guam, but it's like the reality is we have more engaged families in the state. We tend to have, there's a lot of things.
Smarter children.
I mean, we
Yeah.
just tend to look like- and so.
Yeah,
For sure.
I appreciate that, and at the same time, running a school, and Dr. Gilday would be more equipped to share this with you. Wherever you are, there are certain resources you need to run schools, including, in this case, really good staff. And that
To the
costs.
spend per pupil question. If we don't know what it is this year, what was it last year? I mean, just.
So I'm just gonna estimate because our local assessment's about 10 grand.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say, and the vast majority of our budget is property tax. Because of the way the state system's set up. I'm gonna say we're in the probably $12,000 range overall. Where back east, for example, you'll see anywhere from 17 to
Right, but we're not.
the 24,000.
Right here, so I'm just wondering, in
Understand.
our own vote. I mean, yeah.
What is it that you're, what is it
But
that
in
you're trying
comparison, in the
what is it
state
that you're trying to get to?
other
Spending
districts.
too much?
No, see, there's so many of these things, Leonard. I'm just trying to understand, what is the growth per spend per pupil in this district, not in any East Coast, other state, whatever.
It's in line with the budget growth because we're spending all that money.
What is that number? It's the number of students and the total budget.
Right.
Take the budget, divide it by the number of
Our student population has been roughly flat. It's down maybe 8% in 8 years. It fluctuates though. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. Right now, we've gone through population bubbles. Right now, we have more people graduating than we have young students, and that has to do with.
You're not answering the question.
So I'm gonna say over the last 5
It's
years,
a dollar figure per pupil.
you want a dollar or a percentage?
It's like $12,000 or $13,000 per student, not including the Ed Foundation. So
Okay,
what's your
and
question?
And what was it at some previous year where we can understand like how this is going per year? Because I understand.
6,000.
6,000. Okay, so we've doubled, and what year was that?
10 years ago. I mean, what's the question?
Just what is, we're talking about figures, so.
Okay,
let's ask
the
you
budget has
that.
gone from 60 to 120. The students have remained the same.
60 what year?
8 years ago.
8 years ago, so 2015.
I mean, I have to look at the numbers.
Stayed, the per pupil has stayed fairly level, actually, over the 5 years, interestingly, right? Partly because the number of kids that fluctuated, partly because of the number that, the amounts that flowed in and out. So really, you're talking about maybe 12,000 5 years ago to maybe 14,000 now. So you're right, kind of in that range.
But 12,000, you just said it was 6, 8 years.
Well, it depends on how you're looking at it, right? Like, are you looking at it as budget divided by students? Are you looking at it as instructional dollars? Are you looking at it as, I mean, it depends on how you're looking at it, right?
But do you see how you keep evading the answers? It's like, I'm just asking a straight question.
What am I evading?
He said he would pull the data for you and give it to you.
What question am I evading? Like, I don't get what
I'm
you're saying.
just asking how much you spend per student and how that growth has happened. And you keep talking about East Coast and these other things, and I'm just saying.
No, I haven't mentioned East Coast. I don't live on the East Coast. I live here in Park City.
But you're being very flippant. Yeah, you're the one who's brought in these other.
All right, look, so here's the deal, okay? I'm happy to stay or answer questions with you, or have Randy and I stay and answer questions with you. But you're gonna have to be a little bit calmer and more polite, because this is a hearing. It is not an opportunity for you to badger me or anyone else here.
I'm just asking, how much is the spend per pupil? That's it. If this is recorded, that's fine. This is not a flippant question. I'm
We
just
just
saying.
told
We just told you.
You said
Look into it.
12 to 14.
We don't have the exact number right in front of us.
So keep in mind, not every student, we don't spend the same amount on every student.
Yeah, some.
I
have
have
different
regular
percentages.
education students that I receive funding for,
Okay, it's.
that might be
This
$12,000.
is the reference number to help us understand.
I'm trying to
It's
answer
lower
the
than
question.
cost, which means you're.
All right, you know what? Stop. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right. Do we have any other comments from anyone else?
I don't understand why.
Thank you.
it's being run-
Thank you. All right, I will entertain a motion to adopt the proposed budget as presented at the June 20th, 2023 budget hearing,
Excuse me.
and to set the following tax rates for the same budget period. The total tax rate of 0.003484, which is broken down as follows. The board local levy 0.001164, the voted local levy 0.000532, the debt service level 0.000132, and the capital local levy 0.000235. The rates that are set by the Utah State Legislature will certify the basic school levy 0.001406 and the charter school levy 0.000015. Do I have a
I
motion?
make the motion to adopt the taxation as stated.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, does anyone have any discussion or comments or thoughts on these rates or adopting?
No.
First,
All right, all those in favor of certifying the tax rates and approving the budget as stated, please say aye. Aye. Okay, that's 4 in favor and Nick is abstaining because he's left. All right. With that, I will entertain a motion to close the truth and taxation and budget hearing for fiscal year 2023-24.
I make a motion to close the truth and taxation hearing, the 23, 20.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, close.
Yeah. Just have that hand up.
I gave it to Lori. I'll give you this. Lori has it.
Yeah, I stole those. And in the, yeah. So, yeah.